Hello everyone, welcome back. The last time that I attempted to make the same animal with different patterns, it was turtles. And I had a lot of fun, so I decided I was going to try it again with a different animal. So this time I'm doing mice. I had to change up how I did several of the mice this time because I learned last time that 1 pound was not enough, so I bought 2 pounds of the same yarn. So hopefully that will be enough. And then I know with mice, like, they often have a different colored nose, and I did notice that some of the turtles suffered by not following the different color patterns. So if the pattern requires a different color, then we'll throw the different color in. But I'm going to try to stick to the gray as much as possible. I've already set this aside for some noses. And I'm not going to really bother counting how many I have ahead of time to account for what happened last time, where 2 of the turtle patterns snuck up on me after I told you how many I was planning on making. But I've noticed there's a lot of mice patterns, and it's weird. Like, looking through the books, like, either the books won't mention mice at all, or they'll put like 2 mice in the same book. Like, I have at least 2 books that have 2 different patterns for mice. And sometimes it's like they'll separate by saying this is a mouse and this is a rat. It's like, in this video I'm just combining mice and rats together. It's like they're going to be together. They're essentially the same rodent. Essentially. I haven't made too many mice patterns in the past simply because as an animal, mice don't tend to be very appealing to me. In general, I could take them or leave them. Like, I'm not quite scared by mice, but I'm also not going to go out of my way to seek out mice like I would if it was a frog. Or like turtles, I would seek out turtle patterns. But there's enough of mice patterns that I think it's worth comparing them together. And then also, I just have this image of me being surrounded by all my mice creations while playing the recorder like I'm the Pied Piper. So I wanted to make that a reality. This is editing Becky jumping in to say that I forgot to do that. So unfortunately there won't be a shot of that in this video, but feel free to keep on imagining it because it is a lovely image. I'm not gonna try to say like I'm gonna follow a certain pattern because I know I'm gonna go rogue. I'm gonna make whatever pattern I feel like making. And we'll just go over the patterns once they're all made and show you what they all look like. There ended up being 11 mice from the patterns that I had available. Look at how cute they are. I did not run out of gray yarn this time. The first pattern was Ian the Rat from Edward Menagerie's The New Collection by Kerry Lord. From the same book, we also had Hannah the Mouse. As it turns out, from the simple way that my mind worked, I ended up working on multiple of the patterns simultaneously, and therefore it's kind of hard to separate them in my mind as separate patterns because I was working on them at the same time. And it literally started right away. Like, right when I started this project, I kind of started working on one pattern and then went to the other pattern. So this was the first one that I started crocheting. It was the first pattern I'd ever made from that book. I had bought that book like months before and never actually made anything from it. And then I realized that it had 2 patterns from it. So this is the rat. And I was midway through the rat when I started working on the mouse. And in all honesty, There is not much difference between the rat and the mouse. Probably the differences come from the tails. I mean, the tail's slightly longer on the rat than it is on the mouse, and the nose. You can see the rat has more of a pointed nose than the mouse here, and the way the ends are. The book itself had the rat and the mouse with different colored yarn, but because I was trying to keep like the same sort of yarn throughout the entire thing, it kind of erased all the differences between the rat and the mouse. And they're essentially, like, with the way that this book wrote it, there were base features. So there's like a base for the belly and a base for the limbs. So those were essentially the same. Literally the only thing separating the base here is the color change on the mouse while it's solid on the rat. But the stomachs are pretty much the same. And I mean, I got to sew on the eyes. That was nice. But even the ears, you can tell the ears are kind of the same. And it's kind of like I made two of the same stuffed animal. Just very slight tweaks, essentially. But it's a solid stuffed animal. It gets its point across as a mouse. It's more of like the teddy bear thing. It's got like the little belly. And overall, I'd say it's a pretty delightful pattern for this one here. From the book Crochet Kawaii by Marie-Noëlle Bayard, we have La Souris. The same French language book also gives us La Petite Souris. Now this book came from the French crochet book, which this is a book I've made several other patterns from before in the past, and there's often a little bit of a hiccup in the patterns, not just because of my French translating skills, but also because of just like they get the math wrong, and it was no different. I think it was for this one. This one here had a little bit of the trouble. I had to like redo it a little bit. But what I think is funny about these two mice is this was known as La Souris, and this one was known as Les Petites Souris. And ultimately, Les Petites Souris is bigger than the souris. It's like the one that's known as a little mouse is bigger than the actual mouse. So their tails were not meant to be curled. They just gave them straight tails, but I left them around my mom, and mom curled the tails, so they have curled tails now. But there's like a slight difference between these two. So with just the souris, they were going for more of a pot-belly mouse shape. And I feel like a little bit more effort was to make this look a little bit more realistic. This was more meant to look more like a mouse, and this was more like we're going to take the teddy bear body but give it to a mouse. Because this was part of, like, the mouse, the green, this little souris was not only green in the book, but like this was by itself, while this was in a set of patterns with 3 other animals. So there was a little bit more effort here. I mean, the limbs were all separate on this mouse. And there's a little bit more effort in the ears. Like you can see there's the little white circle inside, and then the ears go around it, so it gives it the multicolored thing. While with this one, the legs are unmistakably attached to the body itself, so it can't help but stand up. Even though this mouse can support itself, if I balance it correctly, this one cannot. The inside of the ears are also just plain gray. And here it actually had me make a little bit for the nose, while here I had to sew the nose on. They're both delightful in their own ways. I mean, you still have, like, it's hard to see with the lighting here, but like a lot of mouse patterns have, like, let's make the pads of the hands a different color than the actual body of the mouse, because that's how mice actually are. You have like the little pink hands versus the gray body for the most part. So we have that here, like with the different colors. But this is also like delightfully mouse sized. This is the No So Scrap Mouse Amigurumi from the website Stringy Ding Ding. So this cute little mouse here is the smallest out of all the mice that I made. And it is also the only mouse that I got from an online pattern. I used the pattern from a pattern writer that I've done other patterns from before with mixed results. So it was intriguing to me to see how it will turn out. And with this one, I'd say this is a nice, delightful thing. This particular pattern writer has what she calls her scraptacular animals, where she writes crochet patterns for animals that use up a little bit of yarn. They're meant to use up your scrap yarn. And this is one of those patterns. And she also promises that it's no sew. I mean, I didn't have the proper size safety eyes at the time, so there was a little bit of sewing for me. But overall, it was pretty much lived as it came out as promised. Like the ears were done right then and there, although the ears are going in the opposite direction of how I would prefer them to be going. Although that could have just been me messing up. But it's like a nice, quick, cute little pattern, yeah. And also, because it was so quick, it took the least amount of effort out of all the ones that I did. Which it made me actually go and explore some of her other smaller, like, scraptacular patterns, which I guess for a designer, that's probably the best compliment. Someone likes your work, they go and attempt another pattern. Yeah. That you wrote. But I like how, even though how simple it is, you can still tell that it's a mouse. It's unmistakably a mouse. This is the Colorful Mouse from Knitted Toys by Zoe Mellor, which makes it kind of ironic I did it in just gray. So the way that this one looks more like a computer mouse than an actual mouse. So this is also the first ever mouse pattern I've ever made. It's not the first one that I made for this series, but it is the first one I've ever made in general. Simply because I had that book where I had this mouse pattern before I had a lot of the other books that I worked from. So I remember in the past that I was altering the pattern to better fit the mouse because I remember it not working out correctly, and I decided to follow the pattern exactly, and I remember why I did that. So this mouse came in 3 pieces. There was the back piece right here, well, not including the tail. The tail I added after the fact, but there was the back piece right here, and then this whole top part of the mouse is another piece. And then there's this bottom bit right here. And you can kind of see from the sewing how it doesn't quite go to the top. I remember that bothered me when I was younger. Because it's like, you want me to make the triangle wedge, but the triangle wedge doesn't quite work. I'm guessing the designer kind of wanted to tilt the head up. But also the designer decided to take the way out of, sew on the eyes, glue on the felt ears, glue on the whiskers, you'll get the mouse that way. And I've never had the patience to follow those instructions. So we're stuck with what looks like a computer mouse. But this is more mouse in the abstract terms, like, because it looks like a computer mouse, it still looks like a mouse. It looks like a mouse that's boiled down to its most basic components. And it's definitely like the type of pattern where you fill it with catnip, you give it to a mouse. Yeah. Or you make a really small version of it, you fill it with catnip or stuffing, you give it to a mouse, you let them bat it around, and if they rip it up, it's not a big deal. There are a couple other patterns here where if I let a cat rip it up, I would be devastated. But this one, not so much. And it's a nice, simple pattern. Like, we always need more patterns that are just super simple. This is the pattern Reggie the Mouse by Kristi Tullus from the collection Zoomigurumi 5. Just as I was about to begin talking, I got distracted by the safety eyes of this particular mouse, and it looks like not all the eyes are the same. It looks like this mouse has a cataract. Whoops. Did not mean for this mouse to have a cataract. Anyway, for this particular pattern for the mouse, I've made this pattern before, like once before, but I did it with a lighter yarn. And making it with the yarn that I had for the rest of the mice, I wasn't as satisfied with this one because the head's a little bit top heavy. The head is really, really big compared to the body. So the mouse, like even with the legs, the mouse has trouble supporting its own weight. It's good that these mice have like a tail behind them because it provides, like, with the two legs and the tail, it provides kind of like a tripod. So if I bend it down like that, you can kind of see the tripod effect, yeah. But also, what I find not so satisfying is the fact that they had me make this little like sweater for it just to be cute. And because I used the yarn that's a little bit thinner than the yarn that I was using, the sweater didn't quite fit. And so it's kind of a tight squeeze on the mouse. And it was a bit of a struggle because, like, I didn't quite line up the arms the way that they should have been. But it's a solid mice pattern, as it is. It's less realistic mice and more let's give you something to hug, yeah. I mean, the ears are nice and solid. It's basically just like a circle that they had me fold in half and then sew on that way. But I can't help but feel like I feel like I didn't attach the head the right way because the head seems kind of off kilter to me, and I feel like I put the safety eyes in the wrong spot. I'm not sure why I have that feeling about that one, but it's a nice solid stuffed animal. This is Dorothy La Cerise from Animaux Au Tricot by Louise Crowther. I was following a pattern written in French for this one. Now this is the biggest mouse that we made. You can see I have to hold it all the way out here so you can see the whole thing in one shot. And this is the smallest mouse. So as you can see, huge size difference there. Now this one had the pattern written in French. I was using it for a French book, so I kind of had to rely on kind of what I could figure out. It wasn't quite, how do I put it? It wasn't quite, like, there may have been some instructions that I missed on simply because they were in a language I did not understand. But the way that this author wrote the book for it is she has a base body and she has base limbs, and then little things get tweaked. So everything has like the teddy bear body, but the only thing that's really different is the head, or if there's a tail, there's a tail. There were supposed to be clothes for this mouse, but I knew I wasn't going to have the patience to make them, so I didn't even try. This mouse is just going to stay naked. But now that I got like the hang of what the base body for this is going to be like, I mean, if you want something just to hug and put clothes on, perfect body size for that. And because these round ears are unmistakably mouse, you know that this is a mouse. It's not like, I mean, the only other thing that might have ears like that is an elephant, but with an elephant you would have the trunk that comes out, yeah. Or even the ears would look a little bit different for an elephant, yeah. But it's like I was able to figure out the feet. I was able to put in the tail. And overall, this is a pretty solid stuffed animal, I would say. Even though I put like a safety nose there for something that they told me to sell. This is I Topolini Cantarini from Amigurumi uno so all'unceto and Palmo de Mano. I was following a pattern written in Italian for this one. With this mouse, I was following a pattern in Italian, and compared to the other patterns, this was perhaps what I would consider the worst written pattern out of all of them. Simply because, like, the author for this book insists on using safety eyes, but she doesn't insist on using safety eyes safely. So when I tried to put safety eyes in this particular mouse, I got like some newer safety eyes, and they literally went through the gap of the yarn, and I lost the safety eye. It was, yeah, I think it had me start on the bottom and then work my way up. So the end is kind of hidden here. But it was not really, it's not really a secure mouse. Like, she did have me have it in like the back loop stitch only on the bottom to create like a flat bottom, but the bottom isn't flat, so it's supposed to stand up like this, like an egg. I guess like an egg. Yeah, but very much like a real egg, it falls down. I think what I was looking to describe is a salt shaker. I don't know why I went egg, just breakfast association. And like just sewing on the ears or whatnot. It's a very simple pattern, but it's not a very good one compared to the other mice that I was working on, which I mean they can't all be winners, right? There has to be some sort of comparison. This is Benedict die Spitmaus from Tierisch Sube Hackenfreud on Pastell-Wunderland by Arana Lee. I was following a pattern written in German for this one. Now this is a Spitmaus, which I followed a German pattern for this, so I didn't have enough time for the clothes. Like, I was too lazy to do the clothes. It's supposed to look like a little Sherlock Holmes. But I figured for the purposes of this video, and also because I had plans for the mice and I'm on a little bit of a time crunch, this one was going to end up naked. So we have the little mouse right here, and I mean, I had to resew the tail because that was a me mistake. I sewed it on in the wrong spot. But overall, this is a pretty solid mouse. You got like a nice rounded body. You got the little ears, which are like that because it's meant to go onto a hat. You've got the nice pointed nose, and it like comes up like a nice slope there. And then the legs are thick enough to support it sitting down. So maybe I'll make it again in the future, but I'm kind of all miced out at the moment, so it's probably not going to happen soon. But despite coming across a pattern in a language that I didn't really understand, it was, it turned out very nice. I think I got pretty close to what the actual thing was. We have the little arms here too. It's like, I do like the care and construction that this particular pattern person puts into it. So it's like, I have the inner ear and then the outer ear, and then they kind of go together. So you got the little lappy thing there. Like, it leads to a very solid construction of the animal. The same German language book also had Reggie the Mouse. This little darling is the last one. It was not the last one started, but it is the last one finished. And the reason why she has clothes when the rest don't is because the others had clothes that were not attached, but for her, it was literally attached to her body. I couldn't get away with not doing it. So she has like little bloomers plus a little dress, and the dress, I mean, it's attached, but it's not. There's like space in here, has ruffles, and I was considering not putting the bows on, but then I saw her without the bows, with the whole dress, and she looked out of place. Like, she needed the whole outfit to look in place. And this is a very well constructed animal. So, like, I did end up using like a fuzzier nose. But I can tell you, the reason why she was not the last started, but the last finished, is because I had to work on the actual dress, which actually took some taking out and redoing. I just started filming to say that for this particular pattern, I made a very big mistake. And it's like, okay, so with the skirt, the rock, because I'm of course following a German pattern for this one, the double crochet is known as Stabchen, and the half double crochet is known as something, but oh, gosh, what's it called? Halbestabchen. And I've been doing the Halbestabchen instead of the Stabchen. So I'm like making the skirt, is like, wow, this is turned out really short for what is only half of the skirt. It's like I'm halfway through the skirt and it's barely coming down, and like, yeah, if I'm doing the half double crochet instead of the double crochet, it's not going to be enough. And it's telling me to do like 2 chains and then do it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take it down, but that's on me. That's not on the book. That's on me. I switched back to the double crochet that I was supposed to be doing, and even though I've more than recouped where I'm supposed to be, much better, not as short. I mean, I have nothing against short skirts, but it was shorter than I was expecting it to be. But now it's more where I'm actually expecting it to be, with 1 row left to go. Just the general dress design, once I figured out what I was actually doing, it was fine. And it was a very, like, this author does a very good job in describing how she actually does stuff, even though it's written in German, which is a language I do not understand. I was able to, like, figure out what she wanted me to do. Although I did have to ask for some translating help, because when I put down the pattern and picked it up, it was kind of hard to find my spot again. But yeah, it's a very, Very nice pattern. So now that I'm like looking at all these mice, it's like which pattern will I make again? Which pattern will I not attempt again? Well, as for the one, like for both of these German ones here, absolutely would make them again, but probably not right away because they are so involved. The one I'm probably gonna make next again is this little Scraptacular mouse because it's so cute. I have made a bunch of these in the past. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. The one I'd be least likely to make again would be our little Italian guy. Simply because I'm just not as satisfied with the Italian guy as I am with the rest. There are other patterns like with this little mouse. If I make it again, I'm dumping the jacket. I'm not going to be making that jacket again. I don't think the jacket is necessary for the mouse, unlike the other patterns there. Yeah, that was comparing all the different mice patterns. I'm going to be attempting another animal very, very soon. That was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.